what about the in the old days? They used to do things a little bit differently. Like the farm system was more, or correct me if I'm wrong, but was it not more pronounced in the old days? Like, I don't know, the Marlies, didn't they used to like send players up back and forth? And weren't there, the way that a team acquired their players was more based on the farm system before?
Oh, absolutely. You had to, but prior to it being a cap, I mean, you had to. That was the way you had to build, was something like that. Absolutely. The whole idea of the Toronto team bringing their farm team from, I think, Edmonton to here, to the Ricoh Center, was to try to reignite interest in that level of hockey in the city. And it's been just a complete swing and a miss. I don't know if you've ever been to a Marlies game down at the Ricoh, but you call them and ask them what time the game starts, and this is the oldest joke in sports, but they're going to ask you what time you can make it. I mean, it is just, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even, they'll ask if you have your own equipment.
They don't get any fans down there?
Anything. There's no interest.
It's crazy because you'd think with it being so hard to see a Leafs game.
Exactly right. And these are the future Leafs.
Yeah.
These are the Leafs of tomorrow.
And that's a 15,000 seat arena they got down there. A great facility. Probably parking's easier than Air Canada Center. You'd think
isn't that the truth?
That they'd be able to get some interest.
And they're the only team in this city who is even threatening making the playoffs every year. The 2009 did not produce any playoff teams in Toronto. The Argos, the Jays, the Leafs, the Raptors, the Rock, anyone you can name, the TFC team, and it doesn't look like 2010 is going to be even better.
What's going on? Is it a curse, Craig?
No. What role do you think maybe that, the fans, right? There's fewer and fewer fans showing up per game. What role do you think that has, perhaps, on all this?
Well, the Blue Jays are at a all-time low right now for attendance. This is just this is a city. I mean, would we agree that this is a front-running city?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially for Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. And and you know what? If I can just touch on that, because I think that's an interesting point as well. On the sounding off show last week, we had Alan Frew, the lead singer of Glass Tiger, and he was very clear that he's heard many times from artists that you can do a sold-out show in Toronto and you can do that same sold-out show in Calgary, and every artist will tell you that there was no comparison. The Toronto show was a bit of a dud, and the Calgary show was live. And that's not just bigging up
You're
Calgary.
talking about the audience.
Yes,
exactly right. Exactly right.
And it's going to be the same for Montreal, of course. It's going to be.
Yes, that's what it's not just the Calgary thing. That was the example Alan Frew gave, but he wasn't saying, look how good Calgary is. He was saying, look at what front runners Toronto is. And I couldn't agree more with that statement.
Yeah, so my question, though, which I'm waiting for, sort of to hear an answer to, is what do you think, what role or impact does the fans have on making or breaking our teams to a level where we're winning straight across the board, whatever the whether it's the cup or whether it's anything really?
I have a theory, a crazy theory. But I don't know, Craig. Do you go? This is a little non-sporty, but the quantum universe, the multiverse, and all that kind of stuff.
I wish I did. Sounds
it's
interesting.
It's based on the principle that what you experience in life is based on the fact that you're observing it. So everybody observes different things. We all live in a different universe, and we all have a different path through the metaverse, right? So
you must be a Lost fan. Yeah.
I remember. I'm going back to remember the '72 series against. I don't know if you remember that. If you were around, Craig.
No, was not around, but definitely well versed in it. And yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, I remember it, and it was just like insane. It was the whole country was doing nothing but living and breathing that series for the 2 weeks or whatever.
And it was so much bigger than that's probably why you say it's not even sports. That had nothing to do with sports. It was
the only thing people were thinking about for 2 weeks. And after the first 4 games in Canada, it was like we're not gonna. It was like how are we gonna win this thing, right? And the fact that we won it is still mind blowing to me. And you're talking about the role of the fans, right?
Yes.
And I'm thinking somehow that sometimes that it's the role of the fans. The fans create the results by watching the game, and they, like because we live in a universe where Canada won that series, but there's probably some Russians living in a universe where Russia won that series. And maybe there's something. You talk about the dud effect of the Toronto fans, right? Whether it's hockey or sports or music, culture, whatever. There's something about this city. This city has a particular culture to it, and it's a very much a work culture. We're very serious. We're kind of like just here to work, to do the. We're not here to live.
We're anal. We don't have.
We're living to work, not working to live in this city.
Yeah.
Montreal's the opposite, right?
Yes.
And maybe it's like, and also I think there's a bit of an inferiority complex.
I totally agree with you on that as well.
In this, culturally, in the city.
Absolutely.
And maybe we just can't wrap our minds around the fact that we got a winning team, that we're not feeling that we're winners enough collectively. Ourselves.
I couldn't agree more. And the proof has been in the pudding. That, as we were saying before, there has not been a playoff team. There's not been a winner. For me personally, this will go down as one of the great swings and misses in the history of any sport I've ever seen was the Toronto Raptors this year. This is a city with a culture that is waiting to embrace a winner. 1 month ago, the Toronto Raptors, the top 8 teams make the playoffs. The Toronto Raptors, 1 month ago approximately, were the number 5 seed with sights set on the 4. So very clear that we were going to make the playoffs. The playoffs just started on Saturday. We already know we did not make the playoffs. And this is a city that is waiting to explode and, in my opinion, and embrace a winner. I don't know if you've ever got to go to a Toronto Raptor playoff game.
Not a playoff game.
Oh,
no.
okay. Now, the playoff game, you cannot. I've had the pleasure of going a few times, and I remember clearly having the impression that I couldn't hear myself think. Like, it is just a phenomenal atmosphere. The Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s built such a reputation for their fan base. They used to bring these huge pinwheels to hold behind and spin behind the backboard when you're shooting your foul shots, and cowbells. And the place was, it's one of the rare atmospheres where it came through on the TV. You didn't have to be there. It came through on the TV. What an atmosphere that was. And that's, I really believe, the direction that Toronto was going this year. And I really believe they were going to be put on the map as a legit sports team. And we're back. And
they just
everything
blew
blew
it.
the hell up. Everything blew the hell up, Hugh. It blew the hell up.
Okay, well, that's
Well, like,
typical.
what can they do though to get fans on board? Because I think that they need the fans to get the encouragement, and I think it all works part and parcel. You know, like fans bring encouragement, force the team to play harder, that sort of thing, and then that also helps to attract better players.
And the fan, ironically enough, in the case of the Leafs, has been, we talked about management, poor drafting, we talked about specifics. The fan is not absolved of blame here for the Leafs, in my opinion anyway. You mentioned 67 is the last time they went to the Stanley Cup. 67 is also the last time they worried about an empty seat in the place. So the fans have shown up in droves. If it says Leafs on the front of your jersey, this city has shown they will support you, but they haven't stayed away to the point where to put the pressure on the team. If the Raptors don't put a winner on the court, we already see right now with the Blue Jays, if they don't put a winner on the field, the fans will not come. That has not been the case with Toronto Maple Leafs. They have sold out, and if you're running a business and seeing that we're making the max money, which we have to keep in mind, these sports are businesses.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
making as much money as possible. You see all the high rises and the developments they're doing. People are calling for Richard Petty. He's the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. The fans are calling for his head every single year, but the board of directors is re-upping with him every single year because he's doing nothing but making them money. Because the fans have not insisted on a winner. They're not showing like the Raptors, like the Blue Jays, that will come. That's fine. Well, show us a winner and then we'll come. They're coming, period.
Okay, Craig. Guess what? We're just about out of time.
All right, sir.
But before we, Daniel, what?
I just want to say something about
Well, just okay. You're coming on in a minute. We can get into that a little bit. And but I want to ask you about.
Yes.
It is playoffs.
Yes.
And what's happening? Is Montreal going to win?
No, no, sir, no, sir. Now they do have I do believe they have a chance in this first round. It'd be a major upset to beat Washington and your boy Ovechkin.
Yeah.
But their goalie, Washington's goalie, is Jose Theodore, who a lot of Montreal fans will be familiar with. And my opinion is, if your opponent has Jose Theodore as their starting goalie, you've got a chance. The rest of the team, there is no comparison. You would take Washington's
Right.
roster over Montreal's roster. There wouldn't even be a discussion.
So where's that series stand right now?
It is 1-1, and I believe Game 3 is
1-1.
tonight. 1-1. Both games have gone into overtime. Hey, don't get me. I mean, Montreal is holding their own.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I do believe that Ovechkin and the crew is going to have. There's got to be a part 2 to the what we saw in the Olympics. There's got to be an Ovechkin Crosby in the playoffs.
Yeah. But Montreal's got a bit of a magic to them. Like they're the kind of team that can like just barely make the playoffs and then
Yeah,
somehow
you're right.
do
Yeah.
a and go all the way. You know, so.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there's, you talk about night and day between the fan base there. That fan base is every bit as rabid as this fan base, but that fan base insists that you put a winner on the ice before they come to support
Absolutely. Okay, so who's
It'll
going to
be
win the
interesting
Who's
to
going to
see
win the
what
Stanley
happens.
Cup this year?
you. I am going to take. Can't even believe it. Mario Lemieux's Penguins never even went to 3 straight Stanley Cups, and he's the best I ever saw. But I am going to take Sid the Kid and the Penguins to go to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup and, in fact, win their 2nd straight Stanley Cup. I will say this, you watch out for New Jersey. I don't like their matchup in the first round. Very often playoffs are not really who's the better team, but how do you match up?
Yep.
And I don't like the way they match up against Philadelphia, but if New Jersey does survive that first round, I definitely got my eyes on them as well.
Any Canadian teams have a chance?
The only one that I would say has any chance, and again, just my personal opinion, I'll say Vancouver. They've got Luongo, who is the Team Canada goalie. I think he's an outstanding goalie, top 3 in the entire league. And in the playoffs, if you can ride a hot goalie, we've seen it time and time again. If you can ride a hot goalie, you can put the regular season behind you and really make a playoff run.
Yeah. Okay, great.